So, Mike, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
I feel it should be you welcoming me since you've been around longer, but we launch in with one of the questions that we've had from the group that's here today. And this question is about happiness. The question is, can we only obtain true happiness through selfless service to others?
In a word, yes.
Is that it?
Next question.
We'll run out of this.
This is going to go very quickly at this rate.
Yeah.
Now, remember, closed and open questions.
I'm just asking the question that's on the piece of paper.
No, let me expand
People
on
say
that.
that true happiness is sometimes found through
selfless service.
Are there other forms of practice one might adopt to find true happiness?
Yes. To find true happiness, first of all, the word truth arises there, and that raises the question, what is true happiness? And in essence, just from my own experience, my own journey, I made the same mistake which I think just about every human being makes, and it's to join the most popular religion in the world. Do you all know the most popular religion in the world? Otherwise known as hedonism. And hedonism, or the hedonist, is the individual who is the pleasure seeker. They're always looking for the next pleasure in life. And the reason they do that is that they've got pleasure and happiness mixed up. And so that's why the happiness that comes from pleasure, which isn't real happiness, is unsustainable. It always comes to an end. But we can keep that going for a certain length of time, because pleasure gives you a high, and for every high there must be a low. And the low is what kind of makes us experience suffering, stress, sorrow, whatever. And so eventually that becomes so low we can't get out of it. And then we ask the question, actually, why am I more unhappy than happy? And that really makes us to start searching for what the true meaning of happiness is, and here you are. Because happiness is really
buy my books to find the answer.
No. Definitely not. Happiness is what motivates absolutely everything that we do. Everywhere we go, everything we buy, every person we want to be with. If you sit quietly and look behind, the motivation is for some feeling of happiness, whether it's for 2 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 years, it doesn't really matter. But here's the paradox. The paradox, if you can call it a paradox, is that as long as you search for happiness, you are guaranteed to make yourself unhappy. Some of you nod and you kind of get that. Others are going, what is this guy talking about? But as long as you're searching, it means you're looking outside of yourself. And as long as you look outside of yourself for the one thing that actually lives within you, then you'll never find it. And so that's why for 2,000 years, the practice in the East has been, call it introspection, introversion, meditation, contemplation. That's been the primary spiritual practice. Because if you ever build a practice into your life like that, you'll very quickly begin to realize that authentic happiness doesn't come from outside in, it comes from inside out. Which leads us to the question, the way to guarantee sustainable happiness is to give of yourself without wanting anything in return. And you all know this, at least once a year, you do something or give something to someone and want nothing in return. Is that true? Occasionally, once a year, maybe. And you know how you feel when you do that. And so the feeling, that is the feeling of authentic happiness. Sometimes it's called contentment. So it has to come from inside out. And that's really challenging for all of us because we've been programmed with the opposite, really, in short. Which
actually relates to the next question I have here, which is about fulfillment. Can we find fulfillment without achieving our dreams?
Can we find fulfillment without achieving our dreams? Two questions there. First of all, dreams. Most people use the word dream in my experience, but they really mean something else. What they really mean is desire. You know, when someone has a dream, it's not a kind of conscious creation. It's like an intuitive creation. A little bit like a vision. You know, when you have a vision of something, you get a sense of how things are going to unfold. It's like an intuitive feeling. Maybe pictures arise in your head. But that's without then desire. Most people use the word vision, goal, dream, and they really mean this is something I want. And if you go underneath any desire, why do you want anything? Because you believe, keyword belief, that when you get what you want, you will be happy. And of course, between here and the achievement, struggle and strive, got to work hard, got to get there, then you might notice you're not happy on the journey. And you know the old saying, the old cliche, happiness is not the goal, happiness is the way to the goal. So how do I live that? I live that by actually sitting quietly and allowing myself, allowing my consciousness to be the receptacle of the vision. Not consciously creating it, because then it'll get tainted with desire, but allowing it to arise from inside. And that's one of the practices of meditation, is you free yourself inside from desire, from I want this, and I want that, and I want them, and I want this, don't like that, don't like this, to free yourself from those mental movements. And then you allow your heart, the heart of your consciousness, to throw up an intuitive sense of how things are going to unfold for the best for me. And usually when that happens, in my experience, when I talk to people that this happens to, a key element of that vision will be some kind of service to others, will be this unconditional giving, this kind of calling to help others, guide others, share with others. That will come naturally then. And then it's real, it's not forced.
Mm. And I mean, what you've just spoken about links to this other question here, which is why does the human situation seem to require us to struggle to find wisdom and peace?
Why does the human situation require us to struggle? Situation is another word for culture, and the human culture globally, for me today, is of course made up of people's intentions. And people's intentions come from their belief systems. And I would say that in every localized culture in the world now, the belief system is the same. And it's sometimes, for me, called the Scottish Protestant work ethic. Does anyone know that one? And that belief system says you have to deserve to be happy. You have to work hard for your happy. You have to earn it. You have to achieve your happiness, achieve your goals. And from this belief system, from this culture, you've noticed in the past 10 or 15 years has risen an industry called the goal-setting industry. Anyone sat in a seminar for a day and been enthusiastically enthralled by the idea, yeah, I've got to write my goals down, 12 goals, stick it under your pillow, make a plan, make the strategy, what are the tactics to get there? Have you ever sat in a seminar like that? And of course we do that because we believe that's the way to live our life. That has become the situation, that if you don't achieve, if you don't work hard, if you don't struggle, then you don't deserve to be happy and content and comfortable. And by the way, if you don't work hard, you should feel guilty. And guilt is probably the world's most popular form of unhappiness, if you know what I mean. And so that tends to sort of characterize the culture, not just in the Western world, but the entire world now. Got to go out and get it, instead of come back in and know it for yourself.
Which links perfectly to this question: is there any benefit to holding on to negative emotions such as guilt?
Such as guilt. Any emotion that arises can be turned into something beneficial, including guilt. It's a little bit like a very simple definition of stress. And stress is really suffering or unhappiness. Whenever you're unhappy, it's a form of stress. It's unnatural to be in that state. So when you get that, then whatever emotion comes up, it's a signal. Guilt is a signal. And the signal is that there's something I need to change. Not something that the person who said the thing that triggered my guilt, they don't need to change, they're just saying what they're saying. But it's to bring the finger back to me, is that any suffering, any stress, any unhappiness is a signal from within me. There's something I need to change in my consciousness. And this always kind of brings us back to the principle of self-responsibility. And it's really hard for most of us. It's one of the hardest things to do, because our whole journey has been, I am the victim of circumstance, other people, what they say, what they do. I'm feeling this because of what they did. And to really understand that I'm not. It's not the other person. It's not even the government.
What, not even the new one?
Not even the new one that's making me feel like this. No one makes me feel guilty. They just say what they say. And what happens, of course, as I'm sure some of you will be familiar with, is that if you do feel guilty and you express that guilt in front of someone, then their little brain goes, aha, I know where their button is. I know how to get them to feel like that. And now we get into the games of emotional blackmail, of manipulation and so on. But if I can really realize it's not them, it's me, then I begin my journey. I start working on, well, why am I making myself feel guilty? Why am I generating this emotional state? And it's a little bit like, in essence, nearly there. Most people wake up in the morning and the question at the back of their minds is, how can I be happy today? Where do I need to go? What do I need to get to find my happiness today, this week, this year? But actually, it's not the right question for me. The right question is, why am I not happy now? And only when I begin to ask that question, for me, does my journey begin. Do I really begin to go and say, wait a minute, actually it's not them, it's not this, it's not that that's making me feel this way. It's what I'm doing with them and this and that that's making me feel this way. And the moment you begin to see that, for me, you begin to take back your power. You begin to re-empower yourself. But it's not easy, because the whole world around us is conspiring to keep us in the mindset of, it's not me, it's them. Otherwise known as EastEnders. True? Yeah, I think so. Every script is about, it's them, it's them, it's them. No, it's never them. It's not easy. It is not, I'm the first to admit. I'm still working on that. So many years later. So challenging.
So
Sorry.
You said a little bit about inside out and outside in. Maybe this is a bridging question. How do you determine what is right action for you? Is it a feeling? Is it a conscious thought? Is it something? Is it something else? What is it? How do you do it? How do you do what the right thing is for you?
It's a little bit like we have a core within ourselves, and that core, sometimes it's called your true nature, your true underlying nature. And as long as everything that arises from the core, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, as long as it's aligned to that, then there's no residue, there's no message as a result. Everything flows smoothly, everything moves well. But as long as I'm not aligned to my core, and if I get attached or attracted, or if I want something here, I want them to do something there, then I lose my alignment and I start thinking they should be doing this and not that. Then I start saying you shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing that. Then I start acting in that way in my relationship with them. And the signal is a feeling, and the signal will be, there will be an emotion that I will feel as a result. And that's the signal I'm out of alignment. It's not right or wrong, it's just I need to correct something. And so for me, the primary signal is an emotional one, and there's 3 families of emotion: sadness, anger, and fear. And all emotions fit into one of those 3 families. And guilt, by the way, is a combination of the 3. And as long as I feel a little sad, a little upset, or I feel a bit angry, a little bit scared, then this is a signal for me that I need to correct something in myself, in my own consciousness. I need to reconnect with my core. And again, that's the practice of meditation and contemplation brings you back. But of course, the challenge is to take that theory and put it into practice. In the office, in the car, in the kitchen, with the people who are closest to you, who know exactly where your buttons are, is to live that. And that's why it's not an overnight, it's not an instant exercise. It takes time, it takes practice like everything else. But most of us, we can't feel the signal, we don't hear the signal. We actually avoid it, we run away from our fears, we suppress our angers. We don't want to look at our sadness or our depression. And so we find ways not to look at it as we reach for the chocolate or the remote control or talk to a friend to escape into some gossip or whatever. And so we kind of run away from it. And so it's like, I have to be ready to look. Now, wait a minute, I'm feeling really sad all the time. Now, what's this telling me? What do I need to change? As opposed to, oh, that was terrible last week, last year, 20 years ago. I can't get over it. I can't leave it. No, it's 20 years ago. It's 10 years. It's 10 days ago. And so I need to bring myself back to this aligned to the core. And in the core is pure consciousness, is pure awareness, is what we would call here the consciousness of the soul, free of all attachment, free of all desire, free of all seeking, this very core state. And that core state is sometimes called pure love, pure peace, pure contentment, which is the deepest form, for me, of happiness. Sorry, short answer to you.
No, good. Just the, that kind of idea that there's that core and you can somehow align back with it. What's the practical practice of that? Because we can't all, be in retreat centres all the time. And, I know you're not either, but we do get into meetings and on the road and travel and situations and circumstances come.
Sure. It's a little bit like if you get very attached to another human being, or very attached to your car, very attached to your team, you'll notice that whatever you get attached to, you keep thinking about. And so the thoughts about someone or about something becomes a habit. And so the habit just happens automatically. And so if one day you have an authentic connection with this core, then you get a little bit of a taste of it. And just sometimes a taste is enough. And so, wait a minute, let me make the effort to remember that is what I am. You might intellectualize it a little bit, and that's okay. I'm a free spirit. I don't need anything. I don't need anyone. I'm free. I'm available for everyone. And so my true nature is peaceful. And so if my true nature is peaceful, as I remind myself of that habitually, why am I feeling a little peaceless now? Oh, this is interesting. I'm curious. Where's this coming from? So now I'm self-reflecting. Now I'm self-inquiring. And the process of self-reflection and self-inquiring is actually going to lead you to insight into how you are disconnecting, disaligning with your core. And that happens for everyone in a different way, at a different speed, at a different time. It's just different for everyone. But the key is to get that taste, which I'm sure many of you will have had, of that core state, that pure state. And if you don't get a taste, but this sounds right to you, as head nods occasionally, if this sounds right, yeah, I get that, then use that as an idea to practice. Just keep reminding yourself of who I really am. The way we do it here, the way I've been kind of doing it for about 35 years, is just constantly touching base with the idea, the insight that I'm just a being of consciousness. I am nothing else. I'm no one else. I'm just me. And the simplest definition that I come back to is I'm just the I that says I am. Anything after I am is not me. I'm just the I that says I am. Now, I don't go around saying that to everyone. I don't go through passport control and hold out my passport and saying, actually, this is not me. I'm just the I that says I am. I play the game. You know that the game of labels that we all play is that everything in life is given a label, including this form that I'm in. My car, my house, my money. It's all just labels. And so the common international language we all speak is the language of labels. But once you see it's just a language, wait a minute, if that's the language, who's the speaker of the language? And the speaker and the language are quite different. And suddenly you're beginning to, wait a minute, actually, I'm not my name, I'm not my nationality, it's just an idea. I'm not even the form that I'm in, it's just something I occupy and animate. And so I'm beginning to take away everything that is not me. And once you take away everything that's not you, what are you left with? People go, oh my God, oh, I'm left with nothing, what's going to happen? Oh, I'll lose my identity, I won't exist. Actually, paradoxically, the opposite happens. Good timing, eh? It's good timing. And that might be a signal. The opposite happens, and you realize who you really are. But that's not an intellectual idea. It's not even a thought. It's just a state of utter freedom. You are totally free. Because all the time you keep attaching to all these labels, you are sabotaging your own freedom. Yeah, because you're holding on. Then you have to defend. Then you have to protect. Then there's the fear of loss. Then there's the sadness when they do go. Then there's the anger when someone else is to blame. Do you see what happens? And that's the trail of suffering. Sorry.
No, good stuff. Can you just clarify one point in there, Mike? You say, that I am, and then anything else after that is like an addition to I am. But I guess other places people will go around here over today and maybe tomorrow. There will be, around meditation experiences, things like I am peace, I am love, I am happiness, I am contentment. Could you just speak a little bit around that in the context of what you said? Because I wouldn't want, to create an unnecessary barrier to people
Yes.
benefiting from creating those kind of thoughts.
Yes. It's a little bit like you bring the sentence back. And it's okay, I am feeling very peaceful. So there's I, and I'm here now, and there's a feeling, and the feeling is of peace. It's okay, it's not right or wrong. It's just notice, if you notice, then the peace that you are feeling is what you are in that moment. So you don't need to go any further than I am, ultimately. So you just bring it back to I am. And when you're in that state of, I'm just the I that says I am, there is peace. But you're not thinking, this is very peaceful. Not even thinking it. You're just there. You don't need to think about anything. You're just there. And that's the ultimate freedom. But if you need to think, I am feeling very, and you will, I am feeling very sad sometimes. There's a feeling of sadness here. There's a feeling of irritation. There's a feeling, it's okay. It's not wrong. It's just, don't build a sense of identity out of it, which is what we tend to do. Some people say, I'm so depressed. I'm depressed. No, I'm not. There's depression, but it's not me. There's a cloud in the sky, but the cloud is not the sky. The cloud's passing. And soon the sky will be revealed. If the sky wants to hold on to the cloud, some of the skies around here do that a little bit, then the two seem to be together as one. But the clouds pass, feelings pass, thoughts pass. Everything comes to pass except for one thing. The one who's watching everything passing. And that's the I, the me, whatever you want to call it. As soon as we come into language, you're kind of coming away from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. I'm glad I came. In fact, I got a good seat as well because I'm right up here. So there's a little stack of 3 here, and I'll give you them all at once because you can then kind of work with them because it's all on the topic of God. Do I need to believe in God to find peace? How do I understand what God is? And do you, I guess Mike, have a concept or connection with an all-embracing, all-knowing, loving creator?
Okay. We're here till 3 o'clock, is that right?
We got another 15 minutes. So God in 12 minutes would be bang on.
Yeah, God in 12 minutes. Very good. So let me just start. Actually, hands up those here who believe in God. Okay. Sometimes that's the problem.
Always be careful when you follow one of Mike's instructions.
Yeah.
This is what you learn when you've known him for 25 years.
Yeah. It's not... Well, let me just preface by saying that in consciousness, nothing's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong, because in consciousness there's no duality, there's no polarity. So don't interpret, if possible, what I'm saying as right or wrong or good or bad. See if you can stay free of that. But what happens when you have a belief about anything is you get very subtly attached to the belief. You know, and it's that attachment to the belief that gets in the way. Yeah, it's a little bit like if you switch on your TV and watch the news or pick up the paper, you'll see all conflict between human beings. It's just between 2 people or 2,000 people or whatever who have a different set of beliefs. That's really where the conflict is coming from. And if you notice, they're very attached to their beliefs. My belief. Do you ever argue? No, you never argue. I can see a few bubbles above the head now going.
But they probably have friends and family members who do.
Yeah. Yes. Very good. And so whenever you argue, if you notice, if you're aware in that moment, it's because you're attached to your belief, your opinion, same thing. And so in that moment, you're making yourself suffer, because not only do you believe you're right, but you believe they are wrong. And so what happens is the belief system of you and them gets in the way of the energy that is passing between the 2 of you. And so there's a disconnect. You're not connecting with that person. There's no harmony. There's no real exchange. You're just fighting each other because I'm attached to my belief, and that's like a curtain across my window, and they're attached to their belief. And so the light from there and the light from here can't connect. And so for me personally, that's how I sense many people who believe in God. That's why it's difficult for them to have a direct connection, a personal link with God. In other words, do you believe I'm sitting here right now? No, you know it. You don't need to believe it, you know it. And there's a direct personal connection. Do you know I exist? Of course, because I'm here connecting with you right now. And so there's nothing in the way. There's nothing blocking the exchange of energy. And for me, this is how you get to God, make a connection with God, make that that intimate relationship, restore that intimate, true personal relationship with the source, is to get everything out of the way, including my beliefs about God. God's not an easy word because it's a word that invokes a lot of baggage. Is that true? For many people, just too much baggage. The first thing you say, who brought God into this? I was enjoying this till he started talking about God. And of course there's a big resistance because they have a belief that God should not be involved on my journey. Whereas other people say, oh, everything's because of God. God's responsible for everything. God has to be... And so belief systems on both sides? Can I be free enough inside of all beliefs so that I'm just open, available, aware, awake? And in my experience really, when I'm in that state of consciousness, then that's when the connection takes place. The clouds of attachment have gone. I'm not holding on to anything, not even any beliefs. The clouds of attachment to all my memories, to all the illusions about who I thought I was, they've all gone. So I'm totally free inside. And it's a little bit like when the sun shines in the morning and it freely enters the garden. There's no clouds. That light comes down into the garden, and as soon as it hits the garden, where do all the flowers turn? Automatically they turn to, because they're free too. They don't turn to each other and say, have you checked your emails yet? Or, you're not looking too good today. I'm a bit prettier than you today. They don't, do they? They naturally turn to the source because they're not busy within themselves with everything of the world, if you like. And so they naturally turn to the source. And it's not even that they turn, they're just ready and waiting. And then they receive the energy in two forms, light and warmth. And they use that energy to do what? They transform that energy. They take that energy to create color, form, and fragrance. And we call that beautiful. What a beautiful flower. So what's the equivalent to the spiritual level? When I'm in my core state, I'm free, holding on to nothing, no beliefs, nothing. I'm open, I'm available. That light, I keep doing this, but it's not here or there, because consciousness is not of this dimension. It's not of time or space. It's just a state of being, of vibration. And when I'm free and not holding on to anything, then when I'm totally open, totally transparent, my vibration is at its highest. And that's when I'm able to connect to the source, to the origin of that vibration, which is always there, vibrating. And that's when I'm able to take that light. And that light also comes in two forms, warmth and light. The warmth of pure love and the light of pure truth. In other words, that high, pure vibration. Truth is a vibration, it's not a thing. Love is a vibration, it's not a concept. And so when I'm open and free, and only when I'm totally holding on to nothing, not blocking that light, not stopping my vibration, get to that level, only when I'm there, then I feel there's a presence. And in the feeling of that presence, you also get the sense that that being is never not present. That's what some people have. They just have this intuitive feeling that the source, the sun, is always with me. Anyone have that feeling? Always with me. No matter what I'm going through, no matter what's going on around me, no matter what people are doing, no matter what's happening, no matter the size of the electricity bill, or no matter what job I'm being asked to do, that presence is always with me. And that's the key word for me, is just that presence. Just like the sun is present. And most of the time we don't need to look at it, but we know it's doing its work. We know it's doing its job. It's just present. Yeah, you have that feeling. Don't call it God, yeah. It's fine. Yeah. But you do call it God. There you go. Fantastic. Yeah, and everyone, each to their own. It really is what works for you. Just, I'd only say that with words come, they're like doorways, windows into belief system and concepts and memories and so on. So it's how free can I be? That's my challenge. That's how I work with it. But once again, just to come full cycle, there's no right or wrong here. There's no right way, no wrong way. No perfect way, imperfect way. There's just your way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess just one question I would pose to kind of add on to the end of that is, it's possible that someone would be sitting here now thinking, kind of, I hear that and I understand that, but now what do I do? You know, because maybe I don't know what my way is. I don't know what step I should take. So are there some kind of, you know, for someone who may be on the start of that journey, are there some basic steps to take, whether it's to have the feeling and say, I don't call that God, or have the feeling and say, I do call that God?
I can only share my own journey, and from a practical point of view, for me, nothing really shifts significantly and sustainably until I build 4 practices into my life. And there, people say, well, how do you make this practical? And so for me, these are the practical practices. And until I build them into my life, then the waking up process doesn't really happen sustainably. And the first thing is meditation. And meditation is the practice of being my core and noticing when I'm not, and realizing, hey, I've got to change something. And that meditation is also that occasional connection when I do reach that free state and I do sit under the sun. And then the second practice is contemplation. And contemplation is another word for study. You know, at school you studied books, you contemplated the concepts and the ideas, and you were tested and all of that. Here, contemplation means exploring my own feelings, my own thoughts. Where's this coming from? Very consciously. Meditation helps you be aware of them. Contemplation is now where's this coming from, or what's going on? Not obsessively, not an analysis, but just watching to see. So you're studying your own experience. That in parallel with the study of the wisdom perhaps of someone a bit older, a bit further down the line, that helps to feed and generate realization. And the third practice is application, is putting into practice what you realize. Aha, now I get it. It's not David that's making me upset, it's me. So I'll see David tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to practice staying very calm in my core, very still, very peaceful. I'm not going to get shaken. And so now I'm applying what I'm realizing from meditation and contemplation. And then the fourth practice is what we started with, in a sense, for me, is to find an area in my life where I can give of my energy and want nothing in return. To be of service in some way. Doesn't matter what level, money, time, energy, wisdom, or whatever, but to give of my energy without wanting anything in return. And that reverses the habit. We've got the habit in our consciousness of gimme, want, keep, it's mine, accumulate. Can't be happy until you've got it all. All that kind of mindset that we've built in is to reverse the process. Is to find somewhere in my life where I just give and give and give and give. And so it weakens the habit of wanting all the time. So it's a combination of these 4 practices in some way, and it's a different combination for different people, different emphases for different people, that slowly but surely you begin to, what's sometimes termed in the spiritual universe, wake up. You kind of wake up, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Mike. We've got probably just a couple more minutes, and I just wonder if you might lead us in a bit of a reflection on some of the ideas that you've shared with us.
Okay, that's good. So, to put that all in a nutshell, 2 things to begin our meditation. First, relaxation. So just relax your body, take the shape of the chair that you're in so the chair doesn't disturb you. And then step 2 is concentration. Some of you have been here before, and you'll know that the way we share is to keep your eyes open, but just gently rest your gaze on something in front of you. Relax and rest your gaze. And then just be aware of your breath for a moment. So you take your attention, your awareness from the world around you. It will always be there. And just watch your breath. And then take a moment and just see if you can be aware of yourself. Being aware. And then just create one thought, one simple thought. I am a being of peace. Just hold that thought gently in your mind. And then let that thought go. Let it dissolve. And notice what remains. There's a quiet feeling of peace. And then allow your mind to be quiet in that peace. I am that peace. I am just the I that says I am. Thank you. Thank you.